Party Down Productions.
Hey, yeah.
Go.
Just to let everybody know, in about 5 to 10 minutes, we're going to go ahead and start. We have a few more people that we're waiting on that are RSVP'd, so just give them a little extra time, and we'll go ahead and get this started. Thank you, guys.
Hi there, it's Jim. We're down on the riverfront here in Davenport with the Super Liberty Group, and we're having a vigil for the Bill of Rights. And we're motivating our Quad City area liberty activists to get involved in the political process here in Scott County, and we hope our message will spread across the country. Liberty, freedom.
Okay, next week you're what? You're off to Chantilly, Virginia?
Chantilly, Virginia.
For what is it, the Liberty?
The LPAC conference. It's Liberty Political Action Conference.
Okay, that's the same place where the Bilderbergs met about a month ago?
Yes.
Okay, well you'll have a lot of fun. Make you bug the hotel staff about the Bilderbergs. And, whether or not they left any tips or they trashed their rooms or anything.
Right. Yeah, they probably have wild parties.
All right. Well, it's awesome to see Liberty is live and well in Davenport. This is awesome. I'd first like to start off and introduce myself. My name is Matthew Tucker. I'm a Davenport native, born and raised, lived in Bluegrass for a while. Went ahead and joined the Army, tore my knee a couple times, and they went ahead and sent me home. So now I'm back. I'm going to Scott Community College, trying to attain my associates in mathematics and then transfer to meteorology. So I love America, and I love what it stands for. Really, what it stands for is this document right here. The Bill of Rights and the Constitution is what makes Americans Americans. I would like to go ahead and thank everybody that made this possible, everybody that's here. Thank you so much for coming up and helping me raise awareness and helping everybody raise awareness for what's really going on that is destroying this sacred document. I'd like to thank Logan Edwards, Mike Bernston, the Lyons brothers and family, Mike Gadian, who could not be here because he had drill tonight, Jason Kaker, who made this awesome poster for us, veterans and families who have defended this sacred document, Mike Angelos, Mike Elliott, and all the other Super Liberty leaders. Thomas Jefferson said, "The Bill of Rights is what the people are entitled to against every government, and know what just government should refuse or rest on inference." Tonight we mourn the loss of a quintessential part of what it means to be American. Legislation has systematically destroyed this document. The National Defense Authorization Act authorizes the indefinite detainment of anyone deemed a suspected terrorist, foreign or domestic. It means any of us here could be taken away at any time for simply participating and exercising our rights to be here. H.R. 347, the Federal Restricted Buildings and Grounds Improvement Act, which was unanimously sponsored by the Senate, and only 3 representatives in the House voted nay. What this act does is this very protest, it takes our right away from this protest. Anywhere Secret Service protection or anywhere the government decides of national significance can be deemed, anybody taking part in this event could be deemed a felon and be jailed for simply participating and voicing your rights. The Enhanced Patriot Act led to unwarranted wiretaps, secret surveillance. It has systematically brought on the authorization of over 30,000 drones over the United States by 2015, watching us, each and every one of us. Internet censorship and many other liberties, all in the name of security. We give up our rights and the very things that mean what it means to be American, all in the name of security from people who don't like us. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. We should enforce these standards and make them absolute and total. We should make it absolute and make the Constitution law. It's no longer law. We use the threat of terrorism from abroad to take away what it means to be truly American. There's an aspect of the health care bill, which many people don't know about, that by March 23rd, 2013, all citizens partaking in the healthcare law must have a government-issued ID chip, ID card that basically is going to be what they swipe to say, hey, this is this person, this is your medical record, this is everything about you on a card that could easily have an RFID chip in it, and anytime you walk anywhere, they have all your health information and everything about you. We are being jailed for simply disagreeing with policy and making posts on Facebook. Case in point being Brandon Robb, a decorated Marine veteran who was detained from his home in Virginia simply for speaking out and making his opinion known on Facebook. Taken by Secret Service and FBI agents to a VA mental hospital and was forced by a judge, first ruling, to stay there mandated for 30 days for an evaluation until another district judge came in and said that's wrong. And that other district judge is absolutely right. No person should be detained without trial, without jury. We shouldn't practice these practices abroad, and we shouldn't practice them here, because to be an American, we have to practice being an American everywhere. It can't just be here on American soil. It has to be everywhere.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to personal liberty and small government? Each day laws are being passed without being read or without regard to the governing document, the Constitution. It's time for Congress to be held accountable. We need to educate all Americans so they know the liberties that they have been stripped of, the ones they've come to expect. We have to save this country, not for ourselves. It's past us. It's for the future generations. If we want this country to survive for years and decades and centuries to come, we must make a stand now and make education known. People need to know that they are being stripped of their rights, and politicians don't even read these bills. There's a law that says they have 48 hours, that it must be to them 48 hours before they can vote on it. It's not practice. Rand Paul made a motion within the Senate to mandate that all politicians at least have read the majority of the legislation. We have to save this country not for ourselves, but for the future of this great country. We need to stay involved and take back the minds of this country. It will come from town to town, county to county, and state to state, because an educated public is our biggest ally. After the march, there is going to be a small gathering at Brady Street Pub for anybody who's interested. Just a meet and greet so people can get to know each other and we can make this a community again. So we aren't afraid to talk to our neighbors, and we're not afraid to say hi to people walking down the street. Once again, I'd like to thank everybody for everything you have done to make this possible. We have another guest speaker who is a former veteran, David Rarica. He's going to elaborate a little bit on the Patriot Act and the NDAA. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for coming out. And like Matt said, I'm David Rarica, I'm a local veteran. I was stationed right here on the Arsenal, and just really loved this area, and so I decided to settle down. Married my beautiful wife here, and I have 3 of our children. So this is a great place to be, and it's a great place to fight for liberty. Wonderful people here for the cause of liberty. Like Matt said, I just wanted to go over a few things, nothing real elaborate, but just to make a point, first of all, that historically the government will ask of us, citizens, a little bit of our liberty in return for a little bit of security. And it always happens that you end up with neither, as Ben Franklin said. Anyone that's willing to give up their liberty for the sake of security deserves neither, and maybe you should have been nicer and just said you have neither, because that's what we have. I know I don't feel any safer having my liberty taken away by these congressional acts. So that's very important. I got the wrong piece of paper here, though. So. That's not my notes.
Is that the honeydew list?
No, there's a man here handing out. Well, I don't think I have. Oh, let's see. Oh well, I'll do it from memory, maybe.
Take out the
Yeah, that's right. That's what we're missing. Okay, there's three parts of the Patriot Act that I think are important that we know about. The first one is the Patriot Act authorizes the government to search and seize, and this is the phrase they use any tangible thing, computer, hard drive, car, whatever. But where it's different from established law is they don't have to show it has any relevance to any investigation of terrorism. Okay, they just have to say we want to search and seize this thing, and they don't have to prove it. It could be completely unrelated, but they don't have to prove it to anyone. Okay, which is very very concerning. Secondly, there's the roving John Deere wiretap provision. I don't know if you've heard about this, but basically allows them to obtain an intelligence surveillance order that identifies neither the person nor the facility to be tapped. So it's a general warrant, which is something our founders abhorred. In the Bill of Rights, Fourth Amendment says that the government must specify the location to be searched, the place to be searched, and the person or things to be seized. Okay, and this bill, this Patriot Act, violates that right we have to be secure in our possessions and our effects. And then thirdly, this is the first time I heard about this, but there's something called a National Security Letter, or NSL. And what this is the government issues this to obtain communication, financial, and credit records of anyone they deem relevant to a terrorism investigation. But this is the kicker. Even if that person is not a suspect, okay, and they've done audits of this, and it's shown that they have people 2 and 3 times removed from the suspect, that they're getting everything about them, all that information. And the FBI in 2007 did an internal investigation. They found that over 1,000 instances, these NSLs were misused and abused. So that comes as no surprise, but the FBI actually admits that. And then lastly, these NSLs also come with a gag order. So for up to a year, the person the company that they ask information from cannot notify you or I that your information has been given to the government. The good news is that a federal judge has ruled that's unconstitutional. That you should, yes. So that is on the books. I'm not going to go into, Matt covered the NDA, that main section 1021 that talks about, I guess I'll give you this quote. It basically allows the U.S. military to indefinitely detain without charges anyone, including U.S. citizens, who may have, quote unquote, substantially supported terrorists or their associated forces, without defining what these terms mean. And thankfully, there was a lawsuit filed, challenged by a group of journalists, and the federal judge issued an injunction in May of this year against the use of this provision, claiming that it would chill free speech. So there is some good news about that. The law still needs to be rewritten, repealed, and dealt with, but there is good news. So I just wanted to go over those things with you, and then just encourage everyone to, a lot of people here are extremely active, kind of preaching to the choir, but just everyone we know, try and get people to take a little bit of time, just carve a little bit of time in their week, we're all busy, just to do something for liberty, to contact our congressmen and congresswomen, to take part in these groups that are fighting for liberty, because the evil in our world and the tyranny in our world can only be victorious if good people do nothing. And that's what I think we're called to do. Is we need to protect these rights. They're God-given rights. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you, David. Okay, next step. We have 2 additional speakers, but we are going to go ahead and go on the march. I do have one thing that the city of Davenport has told me, that as long as we don't impede traffic, we didn't need a permit.
He's cracking up because of Lance and Molly. Lance and Molly? She's late all the time too. She's crazy though. She'll come flying in there. I never know.
Are
you taking a picture of the picture guy?
I'm taking pictures of you.
Julie, I'm Diane. My husband Dave. Oh, we went down to the federal building.
He never called. And supposed to, but he's not going to.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, the New World Order's gotta go! Who says you can't fight City Hall? Yeah.
City Hall?
Cheese!
Oh, okay. We're already on the line.
I want the...
Congressman Braley, obey the Constitution! No FEMA trains! No FEMA trains! No FEMA trains!
I knew something was wrong. I didn't know what, but I knew something.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. When you guys do freedom here. Hey!
Hi. Well, thank you everybody. That was awesome. The pictures are going to turn out great. Got some awesome looks by passerby. We're going to go ahead and keep this moving right along. Next guest speaker is Todd McGreevy. He is the publisher of the River City Reader, longtime activist and a friend of liberty.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you everybody for coming out on your Friday evening. And first of all, I love what Matt said at the beginning and what David talked about. It was really important information, and the onslaught of the Bill of Rights is so pervasive that it's difficult for us to keep track of how often and frequent it is violated, because it is systemic and constant. And these guys brought up numerous instances that were details about it, and it is overwhelming for most people. I would also want to share with you that a lot of people we talk about are constitutional rights. You hear that all of the time. And constitutional rights is really an oxymoron. All right? Because we have our rights because we were born, because we take air. Everybody on this planet has the same rights. And the Bill of Rights is a portion of a document that was created to self-govern, and it is a list of enumerated shall nots. It is what the government shall not do with regards to your rights. So I just want to share that nuance with you, and when you talk to people about things, because if we keep saying constitutional rights, not that any of you here said that particular, but in general people think, because we're trained by the media cartel and the control grid out there, to think that our rights are bestowed upon us by government, when we created this government to protect the rights we already had. So it's a really important point. And it's my pet peeve. I correct people all the time. I send emails to authors and stuff, and just, it's not right. It's not constitutional rights. It's constitutionally protected rights. This is a vigil this evening, and you know, some of the themes that go through my mind when I hear about a vigil are include like a dirge or a funeral, or we're mourning the loss of something at a vigil, if you will. That's what you traditionally see when someone dies. So I do feel like the Bill of Rights has been murdered. And there's all kinds of ways it's been murdered. I would suggest that if we do this again, that we all get signs or make our own signs that simply say, Bill of Rights, R.I.P. Rest in peace. All right, to get the point across, if we walk throughout an area like this, so that quickly people are, what are those people doing over there? What are they walking for? If they can read that, then you've communicated something that might be memorable for them. Also, vigil is the base word of the word vigilance. And what are we doing to be vigilant, or how are we pursuing vigilance to protect our rights and ensure that the government that we paid and elected and hired to protect our rights are in fact doing their job? What are we doing where we live? Is something I try and challenge people with a lot. And you know, we're trained again by tradition and the media cartels and the control grid and so forth to worry about what happens in 10 square miles in the place called the District of Criminals. I mean, D.C. All right? That's what we're trained to worry about. Like, oh, what are they going to do? Let's call our congressman. Now, I have called our congressmen, and I have called our senators many, many times. And I've grilled them about specific issues, and they're not protecting our rights. Just look at their voting record, all the things that passed. The Patriot Act wouldn't have passed if it wasn't for our congresspeople, and they've been reelected. So I'm of the mindset now that it is folly to spend time and energy worrying about what happens in D.C., with the rare exception of a few individuals that we've all here supported many times. I'm more concerned about what's happening in that building we stood in front of. That was City Hall. That was Davenport City Hall. Some of you here have dealt with City Hall and various issues and continue to deal with City Hall. There are 10 City Council people in Davenport. If you live in Davenport, I would encourage you to A, know what precinct you live in, and who your alderman is, what ward you live in, and who your alderman is, and literally call your alderman up and go have a cup of coffee with that person. And bring them a copy of the Bill of Rights. And show it to them and ask them, do they support it? They took an oath when they took this office. Are they going to support their oath? And you're not going to get satisfaction in that meeting, but if everybody here did this and all of your friends and family did this, they'll know we're watching them. And one thing that the politicians want is to get reelected. They like that it's an ego trip. They love sitting up there and being on camera and on television and getting the microphone, okay? So make sure that they know you're watching them. The other thing is we have the county courthouse over here. And I don't know if you know this or not, but there was a rule that was passed by a judge just by fiat that said you can't bring a cell phone or a recording device, a digital recording device. So you can't bring an audio recorder or a flip camera or, heaven forbid, a cell phone into the courthouse unless you are a bar card holder, meaning an attorney. So we have a caste system in Scott County. We have the privileged and we have the non-privileged that can actually have the advantage of modern technology for recording what happens to you when you go into court. So, pardon me? Oh, yes. Larry brought up a good point. This November, when the election happens, most people don't even know this, turn the ballot over, and in Iowa you have retention votes for judges. You know, and I'm on camera here, and I know I'll get a lot of flack about this if somebody, but I always vote no for all of them, just no. Turn them over. We need new blood in there, all right? So I'll wrap up with one final thing about vigilance. And many of us have worked hard on this for a couple of years, especially Mike Angelos and John Riley and, oh shoot, I'll think of her in a second. Nancy Brandt, thank you. And that is standing in every Monday. How many people here have gotten a notice for jury, a pettit jury, or being a juror in the mail? Right? Have you all gotten them? Many of us have. Now, how many of you actually gone to jury, to jury duty and been there? Did you skip it? Because that is vigilance, folks, is going to jury duty. That is, the people are the fourth branch of government. That's where we as a people can take control. You ever heard the word take back? our Bill of Rights, that's where you take back the Bill of Rights, is in the jury box. It's peaceful. That's where you nullify BS laws that are happening where you live. All right? So if you want to be vigilant, one, report to jury duty and try and get and be a juror. To be impartial and you can vote your conscience and on a jury pool. And two, every Monday morning at 7:30, a handful of people, Mike Angelos, Nancy Brandt, John Rowley, and others, stand in front of the courthouse and hand out information to everybody walking in, which includes all of the jury pool walking in every Monday morning. So that's a way we can be vigilant. So if you want to help with that, show up Monday morning in front of the Scott County Courthouse. Anyway, I could go on and on about being vigilant. Get engaged with local elections. We're going to have Jesse Anderson speak. He's running for county supervisor. Vigilance means paying attention to just a few blocks away, not all the way in D.C. Thank you.
I don't know if many of you, like myself, during that moment, all I thought was, man, this is pretty sad. This is the country I love, and to see it, see the very thing that it means to be American desecrated every day, trampled and just thrown in the garbage and treated like it was. It didn't take thousands and thousands of lives to get this here, get us to this point. And I think we should all really remember what it really means to be American. The sacrifices that have gone in for this country, and the soldiers and everybody who has stood up to defend this very document right here, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And those are real liberty leaders. But I'd like to go ahead and introduce Jesse Anderson, the graphic designer. Has lived in every part of Scott County and is running for Scott County Supervisor. Jesse.
Hello, thank you. My name is Jesse Anderson, and I am Scott County Supervisor. And I didn't know that I was going to have to back cleanup this evening in the lineup, but that's all right. In fact, I'm not a big speechwriter because I don't like to pander to people, and I really just like to speak as I would talk to, a person in normal conversation. But I was aware of the vigil this evening, and I've been thinking about it. I'm always thinking about things. And it's a pretty heavy topic. And when you add to it the fact that we're here this evening, I think because we're not, unfortunately, celebrating this document, but we are, we're mourning the loss of its effect. I studied political science in college. I didn't know that I was going to college to do that, and even when I decided to take that path, I didn't really know why. People would ask me if I wanted to go into politics, and I said no. I think the best answer I ever came up with is that really the reason that I wanted to study it is just because I was in my early 20s and I was starting to wake up to the world around me and realize how much effect the government has over our daily lives, from the food we eat to the air that we breathe. And so, like I said, this is a pretty heavy topic, and I've written a lot of papers, in my day in school and stuff on more specific topics. But what do I say about this document? And so I started researching it. Obviously, I know what the Bill of Rights is, and I know what the Constitution is, but if elected, I'll take an oath of office, and it'd be nice if I'm trying to run for office to be the politician that I wish other people would be. And one of the things that I'd like to see our politicians do is uphold their oath to the office. So I often read Constitution, and the Bill of Rights is, one of the things that kind of popped out to me in the past week is that there's more than 10 items covered in the Bill of Rights. Many of the amendments have multiple items within them, multiple restrictions of the government, or multiple things that we're supposed to have as sanctity as a liberty. And I was also reading about the history and about the anti-federalist movement. And it's really hard sometimes to go after something like a political office that exists in this world of status quo. And recently, I call it feel-good politics, but it seems like from DC all the way down to local offices, you see a lot of feel-good politics being practiced, which is disregard for this and regard for whatever else is blowing in the wind at the time. And but there's a reason for dissent. There is a reason that the First Amendment allows us to do what I'm doing right now, do what everyone's doing this evening, and that is to protest when things are not right and to speak up. And the way I understand the history, the Bill of Rights was essentially a concession that was made to the Anti-Federalists. And their argument was that government has too much power at the top, centralization of power, and we don't want another king. And so the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, essentially what happened is that they agreed that we were going to have a federal government, but also agreed that they would put something in there that hopefully would stand the test of time, that would be a mainstay, the principles, the foundation of the government, the federal government in this country. And states have subsequently, followed that lead. I don't know if they followed it. Some states may have had a constitution. Yeah, definitely. The states had constitutions before the federal government. The point is that this is a steadfast, supposed to be the principle, the building blocks, the foundation of not only our federal government, but our state governments. And a lot of organizations have a constitution, What else do I want to say? So I've been studying a lot, and I guess it all leads up to this. I've got no problem. I've realized that this document does not protect itself. And that's not something that was just an epiphany one day. I think that's something that's grown on me as I've watched a lot of our liberties be stripped away. But this Bill of Rights does nothing on its own. It only has as much power as we are willing to give it. As it only has as much to say as we're willing to stand up and speak on its behalf. And the only way to really maintain the liberties that are within the Bill of Rights is for us to exercise those rights. No one is going to necessarily, the government especially, remember this was written by anti-federalists, people that wanted to restrict the government is not going to protect these things for you. So my words of encouragement, or I hope that they are, is for people to be involved. And I guess that's what has led me to run for office. And I'm realizing that in hindsight. But really, all I'm doing is standing up for what's already there, I guess. And I want to make my, I want that to be the foundation of what I would do in office too. Start with the principles, start with the building blocks, start with what is already there and already makes sense, and what people have died and fought for, and what so many of other people have stood up for in the face of just some of the most utterly disgraceful offenses against people that have ever happened in this country, were usually people simply standing up for their rights. And I don't consider myself a huge activist necessarily, and I'm not one to want to cause trouble or have to put myself in a situation that's uncomfortable, like being in Florida and watching my family go past a checkpoint and hoping that I'm not detained for a couple hours and miss a flight or something. But I realized that I just simply had enough. And just like we need to stand up for the Bill of Rights, we have to do it ourselves, essentially. We simply have to say no sometimes. Otherwise, this will just continue on. And as a community, I feel that we need to do the same thing. I believe that our local governments should value these things because they take an oath to them. And I believe that if we stand up as individuals, then, we could become secure as a community too. And I've read a lot of stories over the past few years of local governments that are standing up to some of these infringements that are coming from the federal government. And I could go on with examples. You guys have probably read a lot of them too. But the point is that we can take these back, but we have to do it. So I believe that's really all I have to say. Sorry for the long rambling speech. Yeah, votejesse.com. You can go check out my website. And I talk about, I'll go ahead and write something on the Bill of Rights. I don't have it, but it's implied in much of the things that I say. I do have I do have a platform point on there that says that I will adhere to my oath of office or do my best, but certainly not disregard it. So I believe that's all I have. Thanks for having it. Let's stay upbeat and let's retain these and get them back instead of just watching them, you know, continue to fly out of our hands. Thanks.
Thank you, Jesse. Well, I would like to thank everybody again for coming out, and I have one last closing remark just for everybody to think about. I don't know if you saw the sign that was going around. It's a quote by Edward Murrow, and it says, "We cannot defend liberty at home when we cannot defend liberty abroad when we are desecrating it at home." And that, I think, speaks volumes, and I would like that to be the closing note to everybody go think on what he really means behind that, because every action we're doing everywhere else in the world, until we secure what we're enforcing elsewhere here, then we're hypocrites, and we can't have that. But thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming out. This was awesome. And liberty.
Just one quick thing. My name is James Getman. I served as a delegate to the Continental Congress 2009. One thing we did at the Continental Congress is we created a document called the Articles of Freedom. So please search Articles of Freedom, works of the Continental Congress 2009. There are 16 articles that document violations of the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and further show that our Constitution and our Bill of Rights is definitely in trouble, and we got to fight for it. Thank you.